Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a number of videos I've seen now, and I'll add some personal experiences into this, where in the United States at least, or a couple from Britain actually, but where black, mostly female employees are getting fired. So the HR people will call up on the phone and say, you're getting fired for tardiness, that is, arriving late on multiple occasions, arriving late for work, and just no-shows, just not turning up for work, but not letting your employer know. And often these people have been counselled more than once by the HR department and advised that tardiness and no-shows aren't acceptable behaviour, and yet they still do it, but seem bewildered, absolutely bewildered as to, well, why are you firing me? Well, why? I mean, okay, so I was half an hour late 5 times. Okay, I took a few days off, but so I just forgot to call you. What's the problem? Well, why is this a big deal? Who cares? And that seems to be the prevailing attitude. Now, I'm a little surprised in some ways to see black people getting fired, because in Australia, at least, there's whenever minority groups are concerned, the company seems to turn itself, particularly if the company is relying on government contracts and things like that, the company turns itself inside out, and they treat very, very seriously their quotas. No, we have to have a black lesbian in this role, and there are special activist NGO groups you can go to where say, look, we need a black lesbian we'll fix it for you. We'll find one. And the person refused to do work. They didn't bother turning up. They would arrive late, leave early. They were always citing some sort of, I'm suffering stress because I saw something on television saying that black people are bad. They could cite anything from any ideological perspective and just take time off and bereavement leave. And there were activist lawyers that would call up and say, don't you give my black lesbian contact a hard time about arriving late continually, and if you do, we'll make sure you're on the front page of the newspapers, and so they're getting all sorts of threats from all sorts of directions. So, and in the end, when they just got to get rid of the person, they have to give them generous payouts to leave. So the reluctance to fire non-white people is acute, whereas when it comes to firing white people, particularly well-qualified white people, interestingly, most companies in Australia are super trigger happy to throw the white guy off the roof, but are very reluctant, pain of death type reluctant to fire the black lesbian. Coming back to the videos now, so there's a few videos where again, mostly black women, but we'll record that they'll record the call from HR, which always seems to be a white woman, by the way, as far as I can tell, saying that well, you're fired and these are the reasons. So now these reasons seem legitimate if you're a job that requires you to be. Maybe it's a retail job, for example, and you have to be on the front cash register at 9 o'clock in the morning, and this person wanders in at 9:30, 9:45, or whatever, and that's sort of not good, and particularly where the local boss manager will say, hey, this is not good enough. You need to arrive on time. It continues. Then the human resource department gets involved and says, hey, look, if you keep on doing this, you're going to get fired. And for some reason has no effect on the black chick. And so not only does she continue to arrive late, but takes days off. Well, why would you take a day off? I had a fight with my boyfriend. Why does that mean? Why didn't you call? I was too upset. Oh no, that was my mother's birthday. We always take a day off. But how about, all right then? Well, why not tell somebody? I mean, if you knew it was your mother's birthday, why not tell us in advance? Look, why do I have to remember everything? And, and so on. So someone who's not prepared to take any responsibility for anything and doesn't see why they should be held accountable to any sort of standard. They just can't seem to do it. That's not the case with every black person, of course, but there seems to be an issue with this. Now, I remember, my experiences with hiring black people and the same sort of thing. For some reason, every time we hired and they were North American black people, by the way. Every time we hired a black person, it was the same issue. They had a real problem with keeping time. I don't know what it was. Now, some of this today is seen as racist. One of the big problems with black people holding down jobs is this tardiness and no-show. So there's an attempt in various activist quarters to sort of rewrite the rule book to say, well, being on time and turning up for work is white supremacy, Nazi, fascist, patriarchy, Hitler, and that's obviously beyond absurd. But black people just keep to different time. Why does it have to be white people's time? You damn Nazi. So I remember hiring the first black guy that I hired and that the company had ever hired, and I was like the VP and everything. So. And I was getting leaned on by a very rich elite of board of directors, people who'd inherited vast sums of money and had never done a day's work in their fucking lives. And they were reading the social columns in the media and listening to all sorts of silly nonsense. And so they kept pestering me and putting pressure, why haven't you hired any black lesbians, Billy Bob? And I was getting this constant sort of, it wasn't so much they were demanding or that you got to do it or else. It was more an incessant sort of pestering and scratching and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, fuck, all right, then I'll do it. So as this sort of pressure reached a high point, we were running the company's running an advert for, I think it was like a sales guy or something like that. And this black guy turned up, and now he spoke. He didn't really have like that black sort of accent way of talking. He had, and he claimed that people in his neighborhood in the United States called him an Uncle Tom because he spoke like a white man, which seems a bit. But he had, very affirmative action, but college degrees, and again, all gifted to him. He hadn't earned them. He wasn't a particularly bright guy. He had a bit of get up and go in him, but there were offsetting factors. But within a short space of time, he'd arrived. He'd arrived at work sort of around on time, give or take. Not enough that you would sort of worry about it, but he'd arrive in, like he'd arrive in shorts and t-shirt, not ready for work, and he would just, I didn't have time to have a shower and get changed. We woke up late. We had a big night, and we went out all night, and this sort of stuff. Him and his wife, and he had a pole dancer wife, and so he would turn it. Then he said, "Well, I have to, go to there was a local gym that he said, I want to go and work. I can't really do a day's work till I've pumped a bit of iron down at the gym, so I'm going to do that. And I'll have a shower there, and I'll get changed into my work clothes." So he'd go off, and then he'd arrive at 9:30. Look, I haven't had breakfast yet. I have to. So he'd go across the road to, like the takeout food place and get something for breakfast. So it'd be after 10 o'clock before he was ready for work. And so I gently explained this to him. You need to arrive at 9 o'clock or before 9 o'clock. Ready for work, dressed and ready, showered, shaved, dressed, ready for work. You've had your breakfast, and he kind of wasn't really happy with it. Well, why do I have to do that? And if I hadn't been pestered so much to hire a black guy or a black person, I would have taken a slightly different. I would have been a little bit harsher on him. But now he was there, and now he was sitting in the chair. I wanted to do everything I could to make it work so that I could keep these guys, the board of directors, off my fucking back. But the guy just kept on. His tardiness was, And he would also take days off. He would just decide, oh, I want to do something, and he was getting himself all sorts of trouble. He was buying dope, marijuana, and then he couldn't pay, and then he was borrowing money to do that, and that he couldn't pay, and oh fuck, and he bought this really cool car. It was like a convertible older VW type thing. It looked really cool actually, but it was an older one, needed a lot of work, and this guy had no concept of mechanics or anything, so a lot of money was getting thrown at that, and so I kept on warning him and saying, listen, you have to turn up for work, you have to, and he got this bee in his bonnet that his wife was screwing around with some other guy, and so he would just abruptly take time off so he could go and spy on her wherever, where she was, whatever she was doing. And as far as he was concerned, that was totally justified. Well, why can't I do that? It's my wife. And even though he was arriving late and leaving early, and I'd say things to him, okay, you've arrived at 9. I try and cut him some slack. Say, okay, you've arrived at, for example, 10 o'clock this morning. So I need you to work an extra hour at the end of the day to make up for it. So I was trying to show that we'll be flexible. If you've got a trouble getting up in the morning, if you work later into the evening, then that's okay. It'll all balance out. But come 5 minutes to 5, he was at the door as quick as he could get out the door. He would sort of nod, oh yeah, but he wouldn't do it. And so anyway, he would then come to me and say, look, I'm spending money. I've mentioned this in other videos. I'm spending money, and we can't sort of balance the budget. So I want you to give me a pay rise. So he'd say, well, and he'd point out, well, Billy Bob and Jimmy Jack, they're doing all right. They seem to have plenty of money. I said, well, Bobby, Billy Bob and Jimmy Jack get in at 7:30 in the morning. They're planning their whole day, and they work really hard, and they bust their ass. That's why they're making that money. It's just not falling on them out of the sky. They work very hard, and they're very focused, and they're very intelligently. Now, if you want that sort of lifestyle, then you have to do those things. Why do I have to do that? Just because they do it? No. If you want that sort of money and the lifestyle that money brings, then you have to do that work. And I tried to, why? Just because they do it? Why do I have to do it? No, let me come back to it. You want the money and you want that lifestyle. Therefore, you have to work together. Oh, but why? And it seemed to be beyond his comprehension. So, and I would try to explain, well, why can't I make the budget balance in my own household financial budget balance? Why can they? And so we sat down, and he's going out to eat almost every night, pretty much every night. And so, well, that's it. Look at the money you're spending on that. And I try and add it up for him. But how can it cost that much? How can $100 a night cost that much in a month? No, fuck. Yeah. And it's like explaining to a child. He just didn't seem to be able to comprehend what I thought were the most basic things in terms of behavior, attitudes, arithmetic, and the like. So in the end, it just didn't work. I just said, nah, look, you got to go, buddy. It's not just not going to happen. And I was probably the most forbearing employer that he could have had, or boss that he could have had. And I bumped into the guy. I don't know, a year later, 2 years later, something, whatever it was. And the guy had gone through like 50 jobs in that time. He was lasting a week or two at each job and getting fired. So he ended up being he was quite a big, solid guy, and always getting into fights, by the way, always imagining that everybody was being racially abusing him and so on. So he didn't play that card on me. But anyway, so he ended up doing a job on this really rough nightclub in this really rough area. He got a job on the door there, and that would be, I think, the only job he could keep and hold down. And it was a night, say Friday and Saturday night or something, and he would start work at, I don't know, whenever the nightclub opens, and go until the small hours of the morning. But that was the only employment he could get that he could keep. and he wistfully remembered the days when he was the place that I was working at, and wished that something like that would happen to him again. And I felt like saying to him at the time, "Hey, buddy, it isn't. That attitude of yours is going to kill you every time." And so my experience, and others as well, he's not the only one. Others, well, I found it all in every instance, in every occasion, that keeping time and turning up for work and so on, and if you do need to take a day off of calling somebody and letting them know, then these things are important. But when they are held accountable to that same standard white people are held to, then they seem bewildered. Why? I was only late 5 times. I mean, why are you firing me? And they just don't seem to understand or comprehend. You're being Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.